Hey, I'm Jeff. I'm from Tabletop Warfare. We have Matt here today. Matt is the winner of Best in Show for the 2025 Mini Masters. And as privilege of winning that award, he has been invited back as judge for 2026 Mini Masters, which is coming up in just a few months. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm great.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, no dramas. Thanks so much for coming in.
No, absolutely.
All right, so you won with a model that I can only call Frog on a Rock.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I've just called it, is Frog.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I was going to ask, is there a better name for it?
It's literally just the Frog. That's all I've known him as.
Yeah, cool. How do we even get the model?
That model in particular was a Frog familiar from one of the Old World kits. One of the, what is it called? Sorcerer and Familiar kits. Okay. It's the Elementalist one that has the Druid with it. And I literally just dropped about $60 on that kit just because I liked the Frog, and that was it. Yeah.
Wow. And was it exactly as presented, or did you do modifications?
Yeah, no, I didn't do any modifications to it. It's a resin model, so pretty much the only modifications I did was the base around it. That was the only real work that I significantly put in. The rest of it is pretty much just the model as it was. Yeah,
cool. The base was amazing. The base is,
thank you.
It's one of those things that, when I first saw it on the table, everyone's bringing their models in, and we had 175 entries last year, and this one tiny little model that just had, I don't know, so much character just appeared, and I think that was sort of quite early on day one, and all of us were kind of looking at it thinking, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
That seems to be a lot of the feedback that I got from the judges at the last year's event as well, was that it just really stood out on the table.
Yeah, 100%.
The base was a very much labour of love. That was all hand sculpted rocks and everything. So the plinth was actually made from PVC piping. And I've sort of stuffed aluminium in there to just fill it up so it's not as heavy, but then it's just sculpted with Milliput on top.
Wow.
Yeah, so it took a while, and the majority of the model building and preparation was just the base alone. Significantly, probably about 10-ish hours just to get it all up to scratch and get everything sculpted just the way I wanted it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the amount of love that you put into the sculpting, obviously, of the base, you also put in an incredible amount of effort into the shading and the colours of the rocks. The rocks just stood out incredibly well. The shadow and obviously I'm not a painter, but it was just eye-catching. So cool. Oh, great work. And you're judging this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be my first time judging, so very keen to be on the other side of it for once. Obviously a little bit disappointed that I don't get to enter this year, but it'll be great just to see the phenomenal pieces that were coming through. Like last year, there were some just mind-blowing pieces. And I'm just keen to really observe those more and actually get to critique them myself.
Is judging something you've ever thought that you were going to do?
I never thought that I was going to be doing it, but yeah, it's just, I think one of those things when you are in this hobby, and if you want to improve, you actually need to have that critical eye. And I guess it's giving me an opportunity to flex that muscle more, because if I need to improve myself, I need to be able to look at other people's work and go, oh, well, I really like what they did here, and I'm assuming they've done it for this reason. So it's just discovering that intent and then applying my own critical eye to it, I think helped me improve. So I'm very much using it as like an opportunity to help boost myself as well.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything that you can sort of do to practice that?
I think to just practice it. It's sort of something that we do in the guild sometimes as well, is we'll just take like an Instagram post of somebody's work. There's some feedback channels that we have in there as well, where we're just, people will post their work, and we do essentially start flexing those muscles there. Critiquing their work, pulling it apart, basically saying what we like, what we don't like, why we think it works, why certain parts don't. And I think that's probably one of the most important things to grow as a painter, is critique.
The Adelaide Display Painters Guild is so valuable. The fact that you guys do that for each other is really valuable. So
Yeah, it's honestly been one of the biggest, I guess, tools in helping my painting journey and helping me to grow.
Yeah.
Is just by being part of that community.
Yeah. What was your painting journey? How did you even get into the hobby?
I think like most people, I started when I was younger and then sort of had this big break in the middle.
Yep.
I started probably early 90s. Predominantly it was from board games is sort of the segue that we had into it.
Yep.
So as we mentioned just before this, I used to do board game nights with my family, and the predominant favourable one in there was Talisman.
Yep.
Which for those not familiar, your aim is to get into the centre and basically control the Crown of Command, and then start killing off random players, although that's probably changed into many editions since. But it's very much like a role-playing game, sort of mix between D&D and board games, and that sort of segued me into D&D as well later on.
Yeah.
But it's just through those nights and games like Talisman that sort of introduced me to like little miniatures and stuff like that.
Yep.
Probably around about the late 90s, my dad came home from a garage sale one day with just a box full of miniatures and old paints and stuff.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, just me and my brother would be out in the backyard. We had set up like a little gazebo or something,
Yep.
and we were just painting out there with like methylated spirits and all this kind of stuff, just stripping all the old models. And so yeah, it was very much just a family thing between me and my brother for quite a long time.
Yep.
Probably about 3-ish years, I reckon, into the early 2000s, and then just sort of stopped for quite a significant period of time. And then actually before that, it's probably prudent to mention that I had like the second edition of the Warhammer 40k box. That will come into place a little bit later on.
Okay.
So that was like the Blood Angels versus Orcs set. And I remember my dad got the Space Marine side painted for me. And I remember being so devastated about it because painting was by far my favorite part of that hobby.
Yeah, cool.
And so, yeah, fast forward to COVID, when this seems to be the recurring theme for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
One of my friends started bringing out all of his Warhammer Fantasy stuff. So he had a little Skaven model that he just sent me a photo of. And I was like, oh, I've just painted this up because there was something to do. And I remember thinking, I think I've got that second edition box floating around somewhere still. And yeah, sure enough, I still had it. So I went to my local Games Workshop store and got some paints and some primer and stuff. And yeah, just started painting again. So the very first model I sort of painted, that was, just after COVID, about 2021, 2022, I think.
Yep.
And then just no painting in between, painted a little Gretchen up, really enjoyed it. Started going to some of the Warhammer stores used to do paint days.
Yeah, yep.
I think they've started doing them again now. They've gone off and on them in between. But yeah, just went in there for paint days, met a group of people. Sammy from the guild was one of them. And one day he just messaged in and went, oh, look, we're starting up a guild for Adelaide for painters that really want to push their progress and stuff.
Yep.
Just let a bunch of us know if we wanted to be interested. And I just pretty much been going to the guild meets ever since, I think, the second one that they've done.
Yeah, cool.
So that's pretty much where I've started and how far I've come through.
How long has the guild been going now?
That was, I should know this because I'm an admin now.
You can guesstimate if you'd like.
So I think that was about 2022.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's 4 years? No, that can't be right. I think it's 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've grown to how many members now?
120 odd, I think,
Wow.
members.
Yeah.
We usually get around about a dozen or two per meet.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a pretty strong online presence through Discord as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's pretty big at the moment.
It's
It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's really awesome to see that kind of community growth, especially specifically here for Adelaide, I think. And community is like a huge part of this hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys meet up, what is it, once every month?
Every second Sunday,
Every
now
second
at Tabletop Warfare Prospect.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Which we love.
Yeah.
It's huge and roomy there, and they've always been very accommodating for
Very
us.
cool.
So, Yeah, every month, every second Sunday, apart from Mother's Day, we usually shift it around for those people that can't make it. And yeah, I think that's probably been one of the key things with growing the community here in Adelaide. It's just been that consistency from day dot. I think I've been there since almost every single meeting, bar about 3 of them, since we started. And yeah, it's just having that consistent place, like rain, hail, shine. We're always there for people that just want to come along and try something new, or for people that just want to get tips on how to paint.
Drawing back to something you talked about before, when you very first started picking up models and painting, when you're much younger obviously, to today, what sort of change, like what changes have you seen over that time?
It's honestly, the change is so significant between those 2 time periods. Late 90s, early 2000s, the internet was, just starting to pick up a bit, but it was nowhere near what it is now. And the accessibility of it was nowhere near that level as it is now as well. Just from, like friendly local game stores, there were nowhere near as many in Adelaide at the time. I think it was like the one Warhammer store in like Westfield at the time, I remember, and that was like the only place you could get like Games Workshop. But it was just really secluded and really insular sort of hobby when I was a kid. It was literally just me and my brother, and that was it. And we didn't even play games or anything with the models. We just painted them because that was the fun part for us. And yeah, cut forward to now, it's just so accessible. Like you've got so many people on YouTube doing it professionally, in Patreon, so many more local game stores that stock Warhammer. Like it's a lot, I guess, more mainstream these days. And I think, speaking on the future as well, I think it's only going to get more accessible. But yeah, it's just crazy how people can go from being, knowing nothing about painting these days to being like an almost world-class kind of painter in a matter of a couple of years, just because of all the resources we have available to us now.
What is that, for anyone starting out, what does that journey look like? How you said a couple of years worth of progression. I could not imagine progressing to your level in a couple of years. So, if you really did want to lean in and really do your absolute best, what would you suggest?
I think the big one we touched on pretty early was critiquing. You really need to be able to, 1, flex your own model, but 2, flex your own critiquing muscles. In that you need to be able to identify, but I don't think that really comes until the late sort of stage. Early on, really you need to get that feedback or that critique of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. It's not, and it's one of the things I struggle with the most personally myself. It's very hard when you're like emotionally attached to something and then people are telling you what's wrong with it. But at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to get better. So getting that feedback is invaluable. Having a community as well is just a huge part in being able to progress really early on. YouTube is a phenomenal resource. I mentioned Patreon, and that's obviously a lot more paywalled. But YouTube's tons of free stuff on there. Like I started on Vincent Venturella, it's like Squidmar. There's plenty of other YouTubers that are immediately escaped, like Eons of Battle, were great ones for just like, you get this really high tabletop plus kind of standard. And then it's just really taking it up from there, I think. Community, like I said, I keep harping on about it, but community is a huge one as well. If you really want to progress, you need to be able to join those communities and then feel comfortable or confident enough to post your own work and ask for that feedback or that criticism. But yeah, if you can do that and potentially get in touch with some of the world-class painters from like overseas, those kind of things, like it's invaluable. And a lot of them are so super friendly, and they don't want to pull your work apart and tell you everything that's absolutely wrong with it, but they will do it if you ask them. But yeah, just having that level of access is just invaluable. Easiest way to progress is to just ask people.
That's one thing I was very surprised that Sam mentioned, how he is in contact with some of these world-class painters. It boggles my mind that particularly you guys and the Adelaide Display Painters Guild and whatnot are in contact with these incredible painters. It must feel like they're just a step away or just a phone call away sometimes, or a message away.
Great. It is. I mean, they're literally just a message away. That's the best part. Especially the Australian scene as a whole has just grown phenomenally ever since I've sort of joined the guild. It's just been this huge, big push to really get the Adelaide scene up to that world kind of level. And the leaders of the different guilds are all in constant communication. We're always trying to organise events and for people to come over. We had Kaha, again, hosted by Tabletop Warfare.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
We had a class with her, Golden Demon winning level painter coming over to teach classes here in Adelaide. It was just crazy. So she went around all of the different states and taught there. It's just honestly having those channels to get those kind of painters down here or to access their knowledge or really pick their brain. It's just crazy that we've been able to do that kind of thing in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I agree. For anyone wanting to join the Adelaide Display Painters Guild, how would you recommend them getting in touch?
Usually through Instagram. That's just the Adelaide Display Painters Guild. There is a link to join our Discord there. So if you just click that on the homepage, jump in. There's a few entry questions, but apart from that, it's once you've answered them, it's just to give you roles to different channels that you want access to, and then just jump in, introduce yourself, post your socials if you're confident, and just start interacting with people. It's a bit nerve-wracking, especially when I first joined myself. I don't think I started talking to anyone for the first 6 months. I just rocked up at the meetups, didn't say a word to anybody. And then eventually, as you keep the consistency with it, as you keep going to these meetups, you eventually start learning different bits about people. I'm a very socially awkward person to begin with. And you get more confident to actually speak to people and ask for advice. And you eventually know, I really like the way that person paints their stuff. It's just, I recommend jumping in as soon as possible. Don't be like me. I keep hitting this, apologies. Don't be like me. Just jump in, introduce yourself. We're all a friendly bunch, and we're all a bit nerdy and socially awkward, so we all understand.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So you are looking forward to judging.
Absolutely.
This is sort of going to potentially level up your critiquing or give you extra experience critiquing bulk amounts of people's work. What are you really looking for as a judge?
Great question. I think the main thing, and you've probably heard it before, would be intent. You want to make sure that what they're trying to convey is being conveyed. Now that can be construed to multiple different aspects, whether it's the style that they're painting as, or it's a story that they're trying to tell with their model. But really it's just, I think for me, it's are they intentionally painting this way, or are they intentionally trying to tell this story, and then how successful they are at doing that thing. The reason I say intent more than just say painting technique, and technique does come into it, but there are heaps of different painting techniques. I don't think you can really box them into one sort of style. I think that's where painting competitions tend to stagnate if they don't have that freedom of expression. Some people do more of heavy metal kind of style, like that kind of box art style. Some people do more of a painterly style where it's more sketching and they're not blending as much. But as long as you can tell that is the intent and they're executing that well, I think those are the main sort of things you're looking for. Like I said, I touched on storytelling as well. I'm a big fan of trying to tell a story or convey a sense of atmosphere with a model, and I think that's what attracts me most to the stuff that I paint. Like I said, painting techniques, intent, storytelling. I like a good story. I think the rest of it will sort of edge into place. I think that's the benefit of having two other judges as well. Is they'll probably be looking for there'll be some overlap obviously, but they'll be looking at different stuff.
Totally.
So, some level of painting technique will need to be in there. yeah, I think that's realistically
Cool.
the kind of songs that I'm looking for.
I'm really curious now that you've mentioned that. How did you, in terms of intent and storytelling and painting technique, how did you apply that to your own model that won Best in Show last year?
I often call it death by 1,000 dots, because for me the technique I wanted to focus more on was stippling.
Yep.
So I used a lot of that with the skin of the frog. So if you look close at it, it's just lots of little tiny dots and
Cool.
blended together well. But in terms of storytelling, I just wanted to convey a sense of atmosphere. Like this was this quiet moment of reflection for this frog.
Yep.
He's got like a bag full of treasures. So that in itself sort of tells a story. And it's almost like he's sitting there going through his bag, smoking on his pipe, just reflecting. And again, this is where you don't have to tell an explicit story.
Yeah.
I think is you can leave some of the story up to the imagination of
Yeah.
the viewer, but you want to sort of enhance that with your painting. So it could be, has he just stolen all of this stuff from people, or has he bartered, or little things like that.
Yeah.
You can leave up to the imagination of the viewer.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it was potentially so successful.
Yeah.
Is because it does tell a bit of a story just with the model itself.
Yep.
And then with the framing of the base and everything, and then it's just it leaves that room for imagination for the people viewing it as well.
Yeah. It's funny you said that because even when you started talking about intent and story, my mind totally went to that model had a sense of tranquility.
Yes.
Yeah. It was just a real tranquil moment. I just imagined, this beautiful stream running just underneath the rocks, and and just enjoying a quiet moment with his pipes.
Great part about base building like that as well is you can you only have to really create part of a scene, and then as you've just mentioned, you can leave it up to other people to imagine the rest of it, like what kind of setting he's in, but you're sort of placing him in a moment in time and letting people run with it from there.
Yep.
And that's probably one of my favorite parts of it.
Yeah, cool. Fantastic. So I always ask our potential judges, our future judges, where do you foresee the hobby going in the future? Where are we going from 2027 onwards, basically?
I think we're only going to grow from here. We've sort of touched on it a bit, but I think accessibility is only going to continue to grow. The methods for model printing and stuff are expanding, and that's not just the plastic press improving the quality of models, but things like 3D printing are coming along. They're becoming more of a household thing that you can do.
Yep.
I just think it's just going to keep growing, especially here in Australia. There's a big push from all the Australian guilds to really elevate our scene.
Yep.
I can't foresee it doing anything but growing exponentially in the near future.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. Well, is there anything else you want to do a shout out before we finish up?
No, we've already done a bit of a shout out, but obviously go to Instagram, join the Adelaide Display Painters Guild Discord, and I hope to see all of you at Mini Masters for 2026.